Okay, let's dive in. Welcome to another deep dive.
Hey there.
Today we're tackling something pretty intense. It's the core of David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind, and Defy the Odds.
Right, and we're working for a really detailed summary of it. So think of this as like getting the key nuggets, the absolute essence, without needing to read all 400 plus pages.
Exactly. Our mission here is to unpack those key insights and, maybe more importantly, the challenges the summary presents. They sound really demanding.
Oh, they are.
We want to get a handle on Goggins's whole philosophy, mental toughness, discipline, overcoming adversity based on what this summary highlights. It's about seeing what the source says is the core message and how it might apply to you.
Okay, so the summary kicks things off with Goggins' background. And frankly, it's incredibly rough. Born in 75, childhood in New York, marked by just severe abuse from his father.
Yeah, the summary mentions manipulative, violent behavior toward his mom, the kids.
Even medical neglect. Because
Yeah.
his father apparently didn't want to spend the money. Pretty grim stuff.
Right. I remember reading that bit in the summary about a really bad ear infection he had. His mother had to basically sneak him to the hospital.
Yeah. And then, after they escaped to Indiana, it wasn't exactly smooth sailing. The summary talks about intense racial hatred. He was like the only black kid in this town.
Wow. So abuse, then racism.
And the summary explicitly connects this immense suffering and toxic stress to actual physical symptoms. It mentions a nervous stutter he developed, hair loss, even skin pigment loss.
So the stress literally manifested physically.
Exactly. The source basically says his start was so difficult he should have been a statistic. It paints a picture of starting from, well, rock bottom.
And yet, the summary tells this story of transformation into one of America's fittest athletes. That's quite a claim.
It really is. But the source backs it up. It lists his credentials.
Yeah.
Former Air Force, then a Navy SEALs, sea, air, and land teams. Arguably the most elite special ops force there is.
Okay, SEAL qualification alone is insane.
Right. And then there's breaking the Guinness World Record for pull-ups in 24 hours. Something like 4,030 pull-ups.
That's hard to even imagine.
And he's competed in, over 60 ultramarathons, triathlons, ultra-triathlons. The summary flat out calls him one of the most challenging people alive. It really emphasizes this radical shift from that childhood.
So the book itself, according to the summary, isn't just him telling his story. It's structured to push you, the reader.
Yeah, 11 chapters. And the key thing, the summary points out, is that each chapter ends with a challenge.
Not just like, think about this, but actual tasks.
Exactly. The summary says Goggins intends these for people who are serious about putting his ideas into practice. They're meant to be done.
Okay, that makes sense. Which brings us to chapter 1. The title alone is stark. I should have been a statistic.
And this chapter, it forces you right back into that severe childhood adversity we talked about. The abusive father, the violence, health issues, the racism, the stutter, the pigment loss, all of it.
The core idea being, as the summary puts it, that level of toxic stress should have derailed his life, made him a statistic.
Right. And based on confronting that harsh reality, the very first challenge Goggins lays out is, well, it's direct. Challenge, #1. List your current challenges, your problems, limitations, excuses.
And the summary stresses being brutally honest here, right? No hiding.
Brutally honest. No sugarcoating allowed. You have to face your own reality, just like he had to face his.
Okay. So start with the unvarnished truth. Then chapter 2 is titled, Truth Hurts.
Yeah, and this one really hammers home Goggins' core belief. Life isn't fair. Stop expecting it to be. And you absolutely must hold yourself accountable for everything.
Everything. That sounds extreme.
It does. But the summary explains his logic. The second you blame someone else, anyone else, you give away your power. You lose control.
Okay. So accountability equals control.
Exactly. And it requires radical self-honesty, looking in the mirror and saying the hard stuff. The summary uses examples like, I'm dumb or you're fat, things people shy away from.
Yeah.
But he argues that's the fuel for change.
And this leads to the accountability mirror ritual the source describes.
That's the one. He'd shave his face and scalp daily, apparently keeps his head shaved, and use that time. Talk out loud to his reflection. See the truths.
And the Post-its.
Yeah, write goals on Post-it notes. Stick them right on the mirror. Hold himself accountable every single day. Even for small things like making the bed, shaving, cutting the grass, washing dishes. Mundane stuff, but it builds a habit.
So the summary's point is that confidence isn't magic. It comes from doing this stuff.
Precisely. Confidence comes from this relentless personal accountability, which in turn builds genuine self-respect. You earn it from yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. So challenge #2 logically follows. Create your own accountability mirror.
Yep. Write down your insecurities, your dreams, your goals on Post-its. Stick them up. Address where you need to improve, honestly. Call yourself out. The summary gives an example like acknowledging you lack education and stating flat out, I need to work harder because of it.
Wow. Okay. Brutal honesty, total accountability. What's next? Chapter 3 sounds different. The impossible task. And this idea of craving discomfort.
Yeah, this is where it gets really countercultural, doesn't it? The summary explains Goggins' view. Society teaches us to avoid suffering, seek comfort, seek pleasure.
Which sounds normal.
Right. But Goggins flips it. He argues, according to the source, that suffering, intentionally seeking out difficult situations, is essential for growth. He uses this analogy of iron needing fire and pressure to be forged.
So facing hard stuff makes you tougher, resilient.
Yeah.
Helps you meet those goals you put on the mirror.
Exactly. It's not pain for pain's sake, it's purposeful. The summary notes that holding yourself to high standards inherently means accepting the suffering needed to get there. Discomfort is the price of growth.
Okay, choosing productive difficulty.
Got it in one. So challenge, #3 is, step outside your comfort zone, regularly, intentionally. List things you don't like doing, things that make you uncomfortable but you know are good for you.
And then just start doing them.
And keep doing them. Make discomfort a habit.
All right, moving into chapter 4. This introduces a really intense mindset tool, taking souls.
The core idea here, as the summary presents it, is that life, especially when things get competitive or challenging, is fundamentally a mind game.
Okay.
Goggins talks about using this taking souls concept during SEAL Hell Week, that infamous week of training. Insanely draining physically and mentally, designed to just strip you bare, see what's left.
Right, exposes your true character.
Exactly. And he used this taking souls idea to basically psych up his team, himself included, to re-energize them when they were at their lowest, turning that mental battleground to their advantage.
The summary gives that example of him leading his boat crew during Hell Week, right? Despite a bad knee.
Yeah, really bad knee injury, apparently a stress fracture.
Yeah.
But he pushed himself and his team, won races, performed at this incredibly high level, and the point wasn't just winning the race.
It was showing no weakness.
Precisely. Especially to the instructors, the ones deliberately trying to break them mentally, like that guy they called Psyche Pete. It was about winning the mental war against them, taking their souls in a way.
Wow. Intense. So challenge #4 flows from that.
Naturally. Choose a competitive situation you're in. And the summary is broad here. It could be with a teacher, coach, boss, even a client.
And defeat them.
How? Not by arguing or direct confrontation, but through excellence. Outwork them, outperform them, achieve undeniable results, win by being better, take their soul through your sheer competence and effort.
Okay. Building on that, chapter 5 talks about developing an armored mind.
Right. The summary explains that pushing through something like Hell Week, going way beyond what you thought your limits were, doesn't just get you through the training. It fundamentally changes your mindset.
It reveals your potential.
Reveals potential, yes, but also builds something new. What Goggins calls a calloused and complex mindset, something the summary describes as bulletproof, resistant to external pressure, internal doubt.
And to get there, the summary says you have to confront your fears, insecurities.
The very source of them. You can't build armor by avoiding the hits. You have to face what scares you, what makes you feel weak.
And the example here is unbelievable. Goggins completing Hell Week with a broken leg.
That's what the summary states. A fractured tibia. And not just getting through it, but somehow shifting his perspective to see challenges, even intense pain, as desirable.
As opportunities.
That's a different level of thinking.
Totally. The source emphasizes this acceptance of pain as natural, necessary, needing effort, work, friction for any real change. And it flips the script on disadvantages too, suggesting they can actually make your story better, fuel your drive.
Makes sense. So challenge #5 is about building this armored mind.
Yes, and it's multi-parter. First, daily visualization. Use that accountability mirror time. Visualize the changes, the goals, the success.
But also the obstacles.
Crucially, yes.
Yeah.
Visualize the obstacles you will face, prepare mentally, then go do something you thought was impossible for you, something genuinely hard.
And then reflect deeply. Understand why you're pushing yourself towards these specific, difficult goals. What's your underlying motivation? Know your why.
Okay. Visualization, action, reflection. Got it. Chapter 6 seems to shift gears slightly, offering a different tool. It's not about a trophy.
This introduces the cookie jar method. It's quite clever, actually.
How does it work?
The core idea is to use your past achievements, the times you've already overcome obstacles, pushed through pain, succeeded against odds. Use those memories as fuel when you're struggling now.
Like a mental resource bank.
Exactly. The summary says you literally list these past victories, these moments you endured and prevailed. That list becomes your mental cookie jar. When you feel like quitting, you mentally reach in, grab a cookie, a reminder of what you've already done.
And the example the summary gives is that 100-mile race.
Yeah, attempting a 100-mile ultramarathon. And get this, the source says he had minimal, like next to no prior running experience. Less than a mile run in the previous 6 months, apparently.
Wait, what? How was that even possible?
Well, he wasn't a runner, but he was a Navy SEAL who'd survived Hell Week, faced incredible adversity. He didn't draw on running experience. He drew on those past victories. Those were the cookies in his jar that got him through that insane race.
That's a powerful reframe. It's not about this specific task. It's about who you've proven yourself to be.
Precisely. You've done hard things before. You can do this hard thing now. So challenge #6 is straightforward. Inventory your own cookie jar.
List your past wins.
List the wins, the successes, big ones, small ones, personal ones, and critically, list the obstacles you overcame to get them. The summary really stresses that recalling these proves your mind is your most powerful weapon.
Okay, building that internal library of resilience makes sense. Chapter 7 then focuses on what Goggins calls the most powerful weapon. What is it?
It's about tackling this tendency we all have, according to the summary, to habitually settle, to accept less than our best.
In a way.
The summary points specifically to the habit of waking up early. Goggins' example is extreme 3 hours of intense cardio done by 5 a.m.
Wow.
But his argument isn't just about fitness. He claims, according to the source, that starting the day like that gives you a huge mental edge. It sharpens self-awareness, builds confidence, and that discipline bleeds into everything else in your life.
So the physical challenge trains the mind.
That's the core argument the source presents. Physical challenges, especially demanding ones tackled early, are the best training for mastering your inner dialogue, that voice that tells you to quit or take it easy.
Life as a mind game against yourself.
Oh.
Again.
Constantly. You need to win that internal battle first, every day. Which leads right into challenge #7. Engage in physical training.
And specifically early.
The summary advocates strongly for early morning training. The goal isn't just getting fit. It's building mental fortitude through physical effort. That resilience, the source says, transfers powerfully to all other areas. Remember, the game is against you.
Okay, win the morning, win the day, train the mind. Chapter 8 sounds very direct. Talent not required.
Yeah, Goggins' stance here, as the summary lays it out, is unwavering. Work ethic trumps everything. It's the single most critical factor.
More important than innate talent.
Absolutely. And this chapter introduces maybe his most famous concept, the 40% rule.
Ah, yes, I've heard of this.
The idea is simple but profound. When most people feel like they've hit their absolute limit, physically, mentally, emotionally, when they feel overwhelmed and want to quit.
They're only at 40%.
They're only using about 40% of their actual capacity. There's a whole other 60% reserve they haven't even tapped into because their mind is telling them they're done.
That's a challenging thought. How does the summary connect that to everyday life?
It suggests things like a standard 40-hour work week could, for many, represent settling for that 40% effort level, a kind of accepted mediocrity.
Ouch.
The real challenge, Goggins argues via the source, is to refuse to settle, to actually use the 168 hours in a week wisely. Find those wasted hours, the summary suggests most people waste 4 to 5 hours daily, and put them to work.
Does it offer a method?
Yes. Challenge #8 is very practical. Compartmentalize your day. Schedule it in tight 15-30-minute blocks.
Like every minute planned.
Pretty much. The summary breaks it down into a 3-week process. Week 1, just track your time meticulously, see where it actually goes. Week 2, build an optimal schedule based on that data, aiming for efficiency. Week 3, refine it. Maximize effort without sacrificing necessary sleep. It's about hyper-intentional time management.
Okay, reclaim wasted time, push past that 40% feeling, then Chapter 9 takes it even further. Uncommon amongst uncommon.
This one's about never getting complacent.
Yeah.
Ever. The core idea, according to the summary, is relentless improvement.
Never satisfied.
Never satisfied. Life isn't static. You're either actively getting better or you're passively getting worse. There's no standing still. The summary mentions Goggins loved Ranger School because no matter what you achieved yesterday, everyone started at 0 again today. Total reset.
So celebrate wins briefly, then get back to work.
Exactly. Celebrate, acknowledge it, then immediately reset your goals, reset your routines, and start climbing the next mountain. Zero complacency.
Maintain the edge, always.
Absolutely. And challenge #9 reflects that. Do what it takes, the hard work, the extra effort, the focus to stand out among your peers, even if your peers are already high achievers, the uncommon.
So if everyone's good, aim to be the best.
Aim to be #1. Don't just keep up, strive to lead.
Okay. Chapter 10 deals with something most of us try to avoid, the empowerment of failure.
Right. And Goggins' view, presented in the summary, is radically different. Failure isn't the end. It's not a stop sign. It's a necessary stepping stone, essential for growth.
How does he suggest using it?
The summary talks about him conducting rigorous after-action reports, or AARs, on his own failures, like when he failed a pull-up record attempt or didn't make the cut for Delta Force training.
An AAR like in the military. Yeah.
Exactly. A structured debrief. What happened? Why did it happen? What went right? What went wrong? What can I learn? What do I do differently next time? Dissecting it with brutal honesty to find the path forward.
So failure becomes data.
Precisely. And the summary also stresses surrounding yourself with people who give you honest feedback. Not just people who tell you what you want to hear, people who will call you out, even when it's painful.
Because that helps the learning process.
Right. And it reinforces that core idea again. Battles are won or lost in your head first. You need to observe your thoughts, control your reaction to setbacks. The summary uses the Roger Bannister example, breaking the 4-minute mile after many failures. Proving the impossible possible opens the door for others. Failure can pave the way.
Okay, learn from it, don't be crushed by it. So challenge, #10 is about doing your own AAR.
Exactly. Take a significant failure, write it out. What happened, any positives or lessons learned, even from a loss, how you handle it, and specifically, what you can fix next time. Then, the summary says, schedule time to try again, as soon as realistically possible. Don't let the failure fester. Learn, adjust, attack again.
Right. Get back in the fight. Okay, finally, chapter 11 ties it all together with a question. What if?
Yeah, and the summary opens this chapter quoting, "The Buddha life is suffering. Humiliation, broken dreams, sadness, loss. It's unavoidable."
That's cheerful.
Huh. Well, the point isn't to be morbid. It's acceptance. Pain is coming for everyone, the summary implies, in its own unique way. And given that,
the conversation you have with yourself is key.
it's the most important conversation. Your internal self-talk dictates everything. That's the crux of it, according to the source.
So when that voice screams quit, when the pain hits.
That's where challenge #11 comes in. Ask yourself that simple question. What if I don't quit? What if I defy the odds right here, right now? What if I just keep pushing?
Use that question as fuel.
Use it in everything. When you want to give up on a workout, a project, a goal, ask what if. Find that deeper reserve.
Okay, that's a powerful framing question. This summary also pulled out some overarching takeaways, didn't it? Kind of summing up the core lessons.
It did. It really reiterated the main themes. Things like deliberately seeking out pain, actually learning to love suffering as a growth mechanism.
Which sounds crazy, but makes sense in his framework.
Right. And the idea that the worst conditions make the best training grounds for mental toughness. Being that one warrior who stands out through sheer effort.
Mastering your mind, turning adversity into fuel.
Exactly. Confidence coming from accountability and hard work, not innate gifts. Training more, especially early mornings, to build discipline.
And that key point about writing down uncomfortable things you know are good for you, and then actually doing them.
Yeah, bridging the gap between knowing and doing. That seems central.
The summary also included a reviewer's perspective, right? What did they make of the book?
They called it raw, powerful, and inspiring, which seems fitting.
What stood out to the reviewer?
They really highlighted Goggins' incredible, brutally honest story itself, overcoming that horrific abuse and poverty to become a SEAL, an elite athlete. The gripping anecdotes, the sheer determination, resilience, mental toughness, self-discipline, all of it.
And they mentioned the 40% rule specifically?
Yes. They called out the significant, almost revolutionary impact of that concept. The idea that your perceived limit is nowhere near your actual limit.
They felt that mindset shift alone could be life-changing.
That's the impression the summary gives, that embracing the 40% rule could fundamentally alter how you face challenges, push you way beyond what you thought possible.
So the takeaway from the reviewer and the summary overall seems to be that this isn't a feel-good book.
Definitely not. It offers strategies, forged in absolute extremity, to build the mental strength needed to break through self-imposed limitations. It's about confronting harsh truths and doing incredibly hard work.
So wrapping up this deep dive through the summary of Can't Hurt Me, we've covered a lot. Confronting truth, embracing discomfort, accountability, physical limits, building mental strength, work ethic, learning from failure, mastering self-talk.
It's a demanding philosophy, no doubt about it. The source makes it crystal clear. Goggins isn't offering easy fixes. He's outlining a path paved with extreme discipline and self-mastery.
A path he believes is available to anyone willing to do the brutal work involved.
That seems to be the core message. Potential unlocked through relentless effort and mental fortification.
Okay, so as you, our listener, think about all this, maybe reflect on that 40% rule the source emphasized. Where in your own life right now are you hitting what feels like a limit?
That point where you feel that urge to stop, to settle, to say, it's too hard.
Yeah. And just consider what might happen if you seriously explored the possibility that you're actually only at 40% capacity right there. What if there's more in the tank?
And following from that, what kind of brutally honest conversation might that realization spark when you next look in your accountability mirror?